Happy to be here. Thanks, Sergiro, for inviting me. I want to, for you, not for us to talk that much about social innovation. And you understand that it's super hard to talk social innovation. I went through your backgrounds, and I know that you're already doing a great job in the cultural field. So I'm quite aware that you probably are not, you are on a high level when you know probably a lot about it. Still, I'm starting with important thing that social innovation is not something that you can find a precise definition anywhere. Similar as social entrepreneurship, they're about social entrepreneurship on Stanford, in the Stanford and Harvard dictionaries, there is something like 80 pages describing all the definitions that someone somewhere have tried to define. So this is why I decided that we start not as on a very, in the academic way of things where someone is talking and you're perceiving, because this is also not possible. I will ask you, since I heard that you also already had some experiences and you already had also a presentation about it, I will ask you where you are already in your tables, just maybe if somewhere are more people, but here you're 5, so maybe one of you can join somewhere else. But I will ask you to split, just you can choose who wants to join, maybe them, or one person, just for the sake of the process. Thank you. And I will ask you to give your time to also to digest and reflect a little bit what for you might be social innovation, how you understand it, why it's social and innovation in one sentence, for God's sake, why it happened to be so trendy, why we need it right now. My quest to you will be also to give a chance to everyone to speak and to be aware that everyone had her or his 3 minutes of minimum 2, maximum 3 minutes of sharing, and you don't, not someone is taking over, and but you really are creating the container for the others also to share. And then as a group, you also can come with the keywords that you found that social innovation for you really is. Why is this challenge needed? As I said, because we all, especially, I would say, maybe the region that Bulgaria is part of, of the Balkans, but also Eastern Europe for political reasons. So we are in a moment where we need to define what is social change for us, to define it and to create our own narratives. So I would like us to start with this co-creation instead of me talking to you. And you have roughly 12 to 15 minutes. So thank you very much for sharing within yourselves. Now I will just ask you to give me and to share, yes, what is on your papers, so to say. Yeah, keywords. It might be you might have a sentence of enlightenment and insight that was so strong that it's more than a keyword. It's also fine. Okay. Tell me, yes.
So it's about breaking the stereotypes?
Breaking stereotypes. Mm-hmm. You can go on. Just
Okay.
don't wait for me.
It's also about change the mind. This is about the two words, social innovation, because we took it like the whole terminology, and then we split it in social and then innovation. So it's about change the mindset.
Mm-hmm. Go on. I'm gonna follow you. Not you, me. I'm gonna follow you. So.
To find solutions for major problems or everyday problems.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
And about social is about it's human-centered solutions or community-based. We are talking about collectivity, collaboration, participatory methods.
Mm-hmm.
And then about innovation is bring new ideas or create new ideas. And then innovation, we also say about new technology and new media.
Mm-hmm. I put it under new ideas if it's okay. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Go on. Tell me more. What is social innovation?
We wrote down community as a keyword, the sense of collectivity, change and exchange, that we work together with a common mindset, interests, goals. We're learning, the goal is to learn by sharing ideas and caring for others. And also innovation, social innovation for us is the non-profit radical improvement. And we have a motto, act for change.
Okay. Radical improvement. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Got you.
It's also empowerment and affecting people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, I'm trying to find not the common ones outside.
Yes.
It's also about generosity and teamwork.
Mm.
Sharing visions.
Mm-hmm.
Also
Also?
satisfaction.
Satisfaction. Feeling. Sorry. Okay. And new economical model. Economic. Okay.
Also is like opening back on geopolitics, on globalization,
Yes, it's in this frame that it affects the innovation, and it is needed.
So it's
The frame is changing.
it's about complexity.
Yes.
Can you put it to frame it somehow? What about complexity? Postmodernity.
It's a new area that we have to get innovation done.
Okay, dealing with complexity in a human way, or
Yes, complexity and flexibility to the new world.
okay. Dealing with complexity. Okay, is that all from you, or okay? Anything else? Okay, I think you said geopolitical, so I can write interconnectedness. Okay. Sorry for my writing. Thank you.
participation.
Yes.
Networking.
Sorry, networking.
Yeah. Or creation of solidarity networks.
I hit somewhere solidarity. Okay. Solidarity networks. Can I put solidarity networks here, as networking might be all kind of networking. Networking for weapon businesses and so, you know the. Okay. Community. Yeah.
Social interaction.
Yes, I'm listening to you. Tell me.
Social connection.
Connectivity together.
Interchange.
You mean the
Shared vision.
Sharing ideas.
sharing ideas, exchange of ideas and visions? Okay. Shared vision. Okay.
And social solidarity economy.
New economic models. Okay. Is that it? Thank you. Here. You covered all. We covered all. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. As you see, your definition about, I would say this is very much the Greek definition about social innovation. You mentioned a lot of times collectivity, solidarity, Today, and this is why you shouldn't talk about social innovation is just social innovation could be or is, it's not something in the clouds. There is no default. There is no social innovation which is only for you. It's only something that works for a group of people, for a society, and you need to have, again, a shared understanding. And I just want to say that today I read the report of World Economic Forum on social innovation, and for God's sake, there was no new economic models there. There were no solidarity. There were no togetherness and all that kind of stuff. So it's very, very much a way of perspective. And taking that you're from the cultural field, this is your great, great, great role as people in the cultural field to build this phase of social innovation, is building social impact. Okay, that's also another, okay, I don't like the word, but still, the social impact models that are really human-centered, are really, in my idea about social innovation, this is for me very important. It's human-centered. It's not social engineering. This is not a geopolitical plan. It's something which starts with the human needs and answers the human needs. And honestly, the most effective way to do it is through culture. And of course, why culture is needed is, I have this, Guru is not here, so I can repeat it because she knows this metaphor of mine. So it's like someone have been messing up with the world. Someone have been messing up with the economy, with the politics, with the decision-making process. And now there are people coming, humble people with their projects willing to fix things. For me, we are kind of cleaners. You know, you come after the big distraction and we try to fix. It was like someone had a party in this room, imagine, and people were, I don't know, breaking their champagne glasses on the floor, or finishing their cigarettes on the wall. And this is basically what happened to our planet through the economy model we have. And now, here we are talking about social innovation, a very humble way to say we want to fix that shit. And we should be I also like very much the radical improvement sentence, because it's about radical improvement, but human-centered improvement, or radical humanism in a way. Yes. I'll go through my presentation is a little bit, we couldn't open the full screen, however. Humanity, at the same time, humanity never had such an abundance of resources. We never had such an access to education. We never had such an access to healthcare as a humanity. Never, never. In terms of numbers, we're on the best stage of human development. However, we have a lot of resources that are unfortunately concentrated in the hands of 1 to 2% of the human population. Yes, we have healthcare, but we never needed it as much as today because of industrialized foods for soils. And as for education, also we never had such an access to information. At the same time, we all have, in Greece you know it I mean, better than many other countries, since we do have access to information, but we don't have access to decision making. It means that the society is moving 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of the real system. And the real system is in industrial age, in terms of education, in terms of economic, in terms of decision making. And yes, decision making is made as we cannot take decisions for ourselves. It's not direct democracy, it's participatory democracy. It's the same way it used to be 100 years ago. I don't even know in my parliament who is responsible for my region. I don't have an idea. And unfortunately, this is the case. This is how slowly, this is only one, of course, example, how slowly we got disconnected. We got disconnected to the political field. We got disconnected in different sectors, in the disciplines. This is why interdisciplinarity is so important, and it's such an important and trendy thing, because we are so much disconnected on every level that any connection is creating new asset. The new asset of this world is connectedness. The new asset, if you think about, imagine that tomorrow there are no money, the only asset that we have is the way we connect to others. And this is actually also what economy means, how we connect to others. This is also what culture means, how we connect to others, right? And this is why also culture is so important right now, because we are in a stage where we have everything, but we are totally disconnected. Being disconnected. I mean, we are connected technically, but unfortunately this is not giving the results or not being what it should be. So going further, this is the very typical way of showing you how sectors are, or this is how sectors before used to look like, in a very, made to be understood. So it's public sector, private sector, civil society organizations. They're different, but they have some overlappings. This is not anymore true, because this is a very artificial idea of where we are as a society. Today, let's see, if before it was, sectors were quite divided, today we need to work much more, like we cannot anymore divide. We cannot anymore say, okay, I'm a social entrepreneur. In which ministry would you put me? In the Ministry of Economy, in the social affairs? Or if I work in connection to environment, would the Ministry of Environment would be responsible for me? And it gets more and more harder for the old system to reflect the real process and the real dynamics that we are in. And thanks God, because sometimes this is helpful, that the system is not detecting you. It's also not that bad. Okay, so these are a few challenges that are, of course, they're here since maybe about 20, 30 years, slowly going on processes that are creating radical movements all around the world. One of them, of course, as we said, is access to decision making. And the world was never so much urbanized. And, of course, cities are getting more and more totally different role in the world. Just I'll tell you one number for Bulgaria. 6 years ago, Bulgaria was 70% rural. Now we are 70% urban living. And it's very similar. Bulgaria is the fastest urbanizing country on the Balkans, unfortunately. Big topic for me. I will show you then what I'm doing to fight it. But the question is, or the thing is, how we as societies create the resilience to create this new culture of sharing, or the new culture of being together, or the new culture of recreating our societies. And here are coming very big movements. I will recommend you to read the European Cultural Foundation paper, and there is a book you can download for their website. Here the internet is quite slow, so Argiro told me better not to try to show anything. But the European Cultural Foundation book, it's called Build the City, and it's a lot of practices on people all around Europe who are trying to build this resilience movement around Europe. The movement is much bigger than Europe. There are a lot of, it's called Right to the City. In whole of the the Western Balkans, there is something called pravo na grad, which means again right to the city in Slavic language, or Serbian, Bosnian, Croatian, whatever. And it's something that is going on also in the States, in Brazil, anywhere where the urbanization is actually taking over our right to the city. Why I'm mentioning such social movements when I talk about social innovation is because social innovation tries to, as you see, it can be in all that sectors, and I cannot define where it is. Is it to the protest movements more, or is it where social entrepreneurship is more, or is it where we have cultural innovations? This is not something we need to define, because this is not the focus. This is not our goal. The goal is not to define what social innovation is, but to create something which is human-centered and the people really need it. So social innovation, first thing. Sorry, here my great. Sorry. Yeah. So social innovative solutions are, as you already made a much bigger list than me. This is my short list. This is the short list. But it must be inclusive, it must be human-centered, participatory, and clearly context-oriented. So it's not about me making art for the sake of art, or making whatever for the sake of whatever, but going there, being on the field, creating empathy, being able to listen, because this is what was missing in the last decades. People were creating solutions for all of us. I can tell you, from coming from ex-communist country, people were creating a lot of solutions for me that never worked out. It never was, how to say it, it was not based on the people's needs, it was based on someone's ideas, and it was always from not bottom up, but the other side. Now, when we all have the education, when we all have access, or actually we don't all of us have, but the ones that are having access to culture and education are the ones that have the responsibility to create these bridges and access to culture, access to information for those that really do not have it. I'm sure that many of you are working on developing their public development, or and you work in different settings, not only in the specific, like in the theater hall or whatever, but you're trying, I hope, to reach out to new audiences. And this is, it's said that something which was very, very normal, now it's getting trendy because institutions got so far away, even in the field of culture, so far away from their audiences. The same way politicians got far away from the people that should be voting for them. So what's our goal? Is people in the culture interested in how culture can have a social impact? It's important to look at ourselves as something which is something like, I would call it social glue. Social glue means that you see clearly the reality of disconnectedness. You can see clearly what is wrong. You're not putting the pink glasses, but you clearly see a problem, and you create a solution through culture based on the techniques, the instruments that you have, in order to overcome a certain social need. It's theoretical. I'm going just because Argiro asked me to be theoretical. I'm going to the practice. In Tandem Europe, there is, I'm bringing you also our manifesto. There are a lot of manifestos, but I think it's very important, if you are in institution, in organization, in a grassroots movement, in whatever you are, to try and think what is your social innovation manifesto or social change manifesto, because social change might mean everything. And now, as I told you, the social innovation balloon is growing quite big. Even the World Economic Forum wants to be there, which is quite problematic, because it means that it really can accommodate anyone's ideas of change. And those ideas of change can be in any direction. Can be even, radicalization can be seen as an innovation. Why not? it's only, I would say, a balloon of people that believe that we share all this idea of social innovation that is connected to solidarity, collaboration. Always be aware that, that this is only in your balloon, and you should go and talk to people that are different from you in order to understand that we are quite not that many, unfortunately. But that's why we have a lot of instruments, superpowers. Can I ask you to spread this around? Maybe it's two of them per table. This is, for example, our manifesto from my organization. I come from the Ideas Factory, because it's social change. When you define what social change for you is, then you can define your vision, you can define your mission and values in a way that really answers not only your local problems, but also the bigger complexity of things, the geopolitical, the environmental crisis, and things that are really so complex, but maybe your one small solution is answering to all these, can answer to all these questions. And this is the big challenge, and it's a super interesting game, actually. So the Tandem Europe, a program that, as I said, you can apply until 30th of June, is the program for social innovations in culture in Europe, which is based in Berlin. Now we are working actually 3 organizations outside of Berlin, one in Greece, one in Bulgaria, and one in Portugal, to spread the word and also to implement the program. It's here, as I said, because of the internet, you can see on the website of Tandem Europe what are the examples of social change there. But how does it work? It works in that way. As I said, think of it as a social glue, right? When you have something which is, for example, 2 countries that have never been working, they didn't work before together. You take one country, another country, you take different disciplines, and you put them together in a process, not on a project. It's a process-based thing. This is also about social innovation. It's not about projects, it's about process. It's not about the final goal, it's about how we are really looking at the process. In order to be human-centered, you need to make a great balance between process and goal-oriented thing. Because of course it's important to have a great result, but what you call a great result is a matter of how you measure your impact. Yes, I want to have a great opera, I don't know, in the middle of the sea. Or if I want to have an opera that has a social innovation impact, it would be nice to involve, I don't know, prisoners opera, and it should be then adapted to the regime where the prisoners are allowed to go, where they are allowed to be. Then I will need to adapt my whole solution to this group that I'm working with. And this is totally different from making my beautiful big project just for the sake of my beautiful big project. It creates a totally different dynamic. It creates, this is the most important thing about social innovation for me, is creating different and new quality of human relations. That's it, human relations. We've lost it. This is what we can rebuild, and we need to rebuild. The Tandem Europe says that culture and artists as a practice has a huge role in rebuilding this broken link between humans. You can read more on their website, and as I said, apply. It's really worth it. It's a 1.5 years program, so you can read more there. It's not only Tandem Europe, there are also other tandems. Tandem Shamu, which is with the Middle East. There is Tandem Turkey with Turkey. Tandem Ukraine, which is Europe and Ukraine. And it gives you the opportunity to really co-create something without knowing beforehand what you're going to do, just trusting the process and also embracing the fact that you don't know. And that's also very different from the project culture we've been very much into. Now write what you're going to do, how you're going to achieve it. Imagine a culture ecosystem that supports a trustful ecosystem that supports your values and supports the process instead of supporting only the project. Both. Yeah, it's both. The program itself, it starts with an individual applying, but you need to have the organization behind you. And later on, the organization is also included, and then the organizations are made to collaborate also. The organization I work with in Athens, we keep on working with, for example. Not only, I mean, it can be institutions, no, it can be institutions, it can be public authorities, it can be, the idea is cross-sector, right? Oh, he pays on me. Yes.
But for the funding, you need not an organization, not to the individual. The money doesn't go to the individual.
You definitely, in the very beginning, apply as an individual with the organization behind. So you need to be with an organization.
Yes, have an European program.
Yes. So you can read more there, but I think because of the funding also, in order to receive money, you need to have an organization behind you. Yes, so...
It's not so known, like Europe for people or like youth program now, this Erasmus, but it's not so known. Even to local authorities, because I work in a local authority, we don't know about this program.
Yeah, it's new. I mean, it's the second year. It's the second year. I have to say our Greek partners here are in Athens. They're called Commons. Stelios Vulgaris. They used to work with Sinathena. Now they're out. They are our Greek partners, so I don't know about Greece. But I can imagine it's not that known yet. But you can still you can still apply. That's why I'm here. Now you know. Okay, I also like this one. Social innovations are created when we declare that we do not hold the answers to fundamental questions and find the courage and strength to look for them, embarking on a journey where we make new models of relationship between individuals, groups, and communities. This is from our manifesto. It's nice to quote ourselves. But this is where I think social innovation is, and this is where your role as public institutions, artistic directors, cultural managers come, is actually what the world really needs, is public imagination. And creating the space for this public imagination. And this is also this new idea of leadership, which is not me being the leader, but creating the space of participatory approaches to others being able to find solutions, to co-create solutions, and to come together to those values and this shared vision. I think you probably already know and you already have an experience with this. However, the important about social innovation is that those ideas need to be feasible, they need to be authentic, coming out from the people, and then really to be something that you can implement, not something that you can play intellectual games around it, but something you can really put on the field, and it's very practical.
And this networking, it also needs to have partners from other countries, or it is...
You're asking about tandem.
Yes, sorry, because it's very interesting.
You go on a partner forum, which is going to be in Sofia once you're selected. And in Sofia, you're searching for, like, there is a networking meeting where you can find a partner from the other participants.
You find them through the internet?
No, live, 3D.
And you need now whose program, not if you want to make a... local government.
Yes, you just apply as yourself.
As yourself, and you don't need other...
Not yet. No. It comes, you meet those people, the others that are selected, and you hopefully like someone, and you start working together. Yes.
How many? They have to be to different countries?
Yes, to different countries. 2, sometimes it's 3, depends. 3 is different, but it's difficult.
Alone, and then you meet with
You apply alone with your organization and your background, yes. More questions about tandem. I need to. It's 1.5 years program. So you go there, a few meetings, you start to develop, you have a placement, you go for a few days in the other country, the other person comes, and then you decide what you work on.
And this funded all these
Yeah, yes. It's funded, yes. No, you need to pay it. You apply and then you pay it. So I just wanted to show you actually a few really just to start, try to show you fast few examples because we theorized a little. So now let's go to the practical stuff. I'll go first to the thing that was in Athens. We have a very nice video online. You can see it, it's hotel transit is what our idea from Tandem, for example, was. And what we did, we worked with refugee families close to Omonia. And actually we wanted to work with Omonia in a way. It's in the center of Athens, but everyone tries to avoid it. And it's in the very center, in the heart of everything. However, it's also a metaphor of problems, challenges. It's seen as a criminal space, and there is no feeling of community or neighborhood or a cozy place at all. So with our partners, we were thinking, okay, how to start with the problem. We didn't start it with, now we have an idea, we're changing Omonia. And it's also, what is needed is a humble attitude, that you know how much you can probably acquire without being, not too ambitious, but without being not humble, I know how to say too, arrogant in the way that you think you can change the things around you without knowing them. We did a lot of things in order to get to know the people of Omonia. And we decided to work with this group of refugee families, because they happened to live close to Omonia in a temporary hotel that was abandoned, and now was rented by a humanitarian organization. And honestly, they were living like in a cage, like they couldn't go out because also around they were drug dealers, they didn't know the city, so they were quite kept inside the space. This was one of the groups we decided to work. Then we worked also with addicts, gambling and alcohol addicts in Bageion, the hotel where the Omonia Biennale was. Through more therapy-oriented practices through art and culture, but still a process which was a group process. And then we also worked with a local group of alternative tours of Athens, which are architects. So we made, all these groups together in a way, or how you work with all these realities together. We also didn't know. So this is when I said that social innovation is about going on a journey that you don't know where you're going to end, and to trust the process. Not I want to do A and B and go to C, but really explore and see what happens and what can be connected. At the end, what we connected actually was the alternative tours of Athens and the refugee families, and it was amazing. What we did was alternative tours of Athens were making something like a grassroots demonstration on how a small street around Omonia can be transformed, and they didn't want the municipality to build something on it. And then we said, okay, why we look at refugees always as someone in need, and why we look at refugee families as always someone that needs something, but not someone that has the resources. So what we did was through pantomime, we asked the refugee families, first they came with us, it was obviously a huge celebration for them because they didn't have such an event before that. They came with us to this spot that was supposed to be built by Athens municipality. They came, and through facilitation, through our partners from Ohipezume, they got to know what are the alternatives or what the spot could be used for. And they started giving ideas through pantomime. Of course, pantomime, when we don't share the same language, is a very good tool, also music. And it was amazing. They felt very useful. They felt connected to the city for the first time. They felt there was a celebration when they were kept in the hotel for quite long. And at the end, there was a guy, with a very big black thing with a beard, and his wife with a hijab. And I was thinking, this guy's, I'm totally sure he's very much judging us. And, it was all my own stereotypes also there. And he was there with his family, and at the end he came and said, very in a perfect English, I have to say also, which was for me. He said, you know, I have to tell you something really where I'm so grateful, because this is the first time that we had a celebration since we left the war and since we left Syria. And it was just one sentence that for me made everything worth. Because it might look as a very small intervention, it might look as a very small thing, but for someone it's actually big. And then when we talk about measuring the impact, I'm very much against the only going for the quantity of the impact, or only going for the numbers. If someone tells you that his children for first time smiled, then that's, for me, that means much more than having, you know, I cannot count the smiles of a child in a report. That's not really what we can do. So how this all went further, we created recipes for home for decision makers. So these were stories what people need to have the feeling of home even when they're on a transit. So when decision makers, or we had different occasions, would come, we would share these recipes for home and made tablecloths out of those recipes for home, where they could read, because there is no connection between policymakers and those people. And you can create or think of thousands of other ways to connect or to recreate these connections and new ropes. So this is one thing. What happened is also that this spot was not built by that municipality, it was kept. Also, a lot of local people came to this celebration because they were watching it, what happened from their balcony, so they came down. So there is clear impact, but we couldn't also measure it that clearly, as you also need money for measuring the impact. That's another topic. So that's another thing. Another thing is, another example from my practice is granny residence, Rezidenția Baba. In Bulgaria we have a lot of depopulating villages. What we try to do since 2 years is to create a clear connection between young people from the urban setting with the elderly in the depopulating villages, where they exchange knowledge, and the younger ones are learning stories, crafts, things, I would say, how to live in a more broader way. But again, the impact is not what we thought. We thought that the younger ones will go and they're going to help the elderly ones. But again, no. Actually, the elderly ones said, I've been here living in this village for 8 years. I've been always bringing my wood, or I was picking my vegetables. And so it's not that they needed the physical strength of a young person, because also today's young people are not the one that really can help them a lot. But what they in this moment said exactly was that before the younger came, you feel desperation, hopelessness, loneliness, and these youngsters drove away the sad thoughts. The most important thing was that they talked with us, about our lives. It's in a way this huge feeling of desperation, invisibility for elderly people in the villages. I don't know how it's in the Greek media, but we don't see in our media elderly people on the television. Not only elderly from the villages, from the rural areas. 2 minutes more just to say just to describe your process, which is inclusive. What we do also in the granny residence, it's very much design thinking process. Do you know design thinking? How many of you? Yes? Okay, we had lecture, perfect. Okay. So we also have the granny residence is a project. We send a lot of young people. They live together for 1 month on a residency. I just want to show you a little bit from the granny residence pictures. They live in a village like this. They got to know stories and how people used to live. This is a Muslim village in the south of Bulgaria. They learn how to weave or whatever they're interested in, what the village has to offer. They help, of course, and this is one of my favorite things that our residents did. They renovated an old bakery. This village didn't get bread for 15 years because since the communism, the bread production in Bulgaria is very much industrialized. So also the democracy then, because it never became a democracy, it also I mean, it really, the villages are victims of it, so they didn't get bread, so to say. And our residents managed to convince two locals that didn't spoke to each other, one Muslim and one Christian, that didn't spoke to each other since 15 years, not for religious reasons, to be clear, because sometimes when you say this story to someone from the West, it might be, oh wow, but it's of course because of money or some other case, not the religion was never the case there. And they managed to convince him to wake up old yeast. You know what is old yeast? 50 years old yeast. So 50 years old bacteria for bread. The guy was super skeptical because he was light. He was very, I would say, disappointed by today's world. And it was yeast left by his father, who was the baker of the village. So he, at the end, he said, okay, yes, okay. And our guys went and guys and girls went, cleaned the bakery, renovated the bakery, and of course then the people from the village was like, how it comes, those people, that those super sweet children, as they say, they come from Sofia and we're going to leave them to clean our own bakery. And of course they got motivated, they go, they help. At the end now they have a working bakery, and for the Bayram there were 600 breads done, which, as you know, also for the Muslim villages it's very important to have, they give bread from house to house. It's very important to have it for the religious reasons as well. And yes, this is one of the, you see, it's not the great cultural thing. I mean, it's not the, I don't know, it's just repairing a bakery. But the thing is that you have a whole model that can multiply a lot of things that are needed. No one of us knew that there is a bakery and that we can help with the bakery, or that someone will find a niece. We look at this also at the granny residence as an adventure, where you go, explore, you find the resources, and then you make something out of it. But you never go before that with the idea. And so this was something that I wanted to show as an example. And also this one, one of our residents, she lives in Vienna, she's an architect. Bulgarian, she was a resident, and she created together with the local women, she tried to create, to turn the looming craft. So she's creating now models that are about to be sold in the German-speaking market in Austria, as she lives in Vienna. So she's helping them with the models, and they weave the things. It was super hard. She needed to cry at the end to ask them to create again the loom, because the looms are destroyed, they're very big, as you know, and she needed to make them really, at the end, to really, I don't know, to show desperation in order to make them create the loom, because again, they didn't believe us. And this is the main problem, actually. It's not the lack of solutions, it's the lack of trust between people, and it's on every level and everywhere. And this is our main task as people working in culture and social innovation. And coming back here to, this is just the models to show you. It was in the Sofia Design Week shown. So coming back and finishing, this is a model that we use. For example, this is our social innovation challenge. The This Factory, we believe everyone can change the things around him or her. It's super inclusive. We have participants from 16 to 63, from police to municipalities, to students, to NGOs, of course, but not that many actually. But really, when we talk about civil society, this is really the society as society, not the NGOs only. And then people just come with friends, they gather and register a team, then they get a mission. What is a mission? All these problems that I told you, that someone broke something in the room. Problems that we have, challenges that we have around us. It could be abandoned building, it could be the link between administration and civil, I don't know, and citizens. It could be environmental problem, it could be community challenge, it could be the link between generation in a neighborhood, anything. And we collect those challenges long before the challenge itself. Then we give them 3 to 4 days of adventure. They have mentors in design thinking and so on. And they jump in, they create solutions, and then they present in front of the community they create solutions for. Because it's crazy to not to have the feedback from the community. And then at the end, the ones that are the ideas go on, they go further to the next levels. One example is that we had there are many examples, but one example again with refugee camps. Those guys they went to the field, they went to the refugee camp in Sofia, and they found out that there is no communication, there is no information for the refugees. What is their rights? Their not only rights but also the rules of the camp. They didn't know anything, and they created audio guides. That are digital audio guides that they can super easily use, also according to their own, depending what phones they use. Could be for Nokia, super old Nokia style, but could be also for something newer. And they have it in the languages that are needed, in Arabic, in Farsi, in Pushtu. So this is something that was now funded and it's going on, and it's in all the camps already being implemented. And also something that came out was we have a lot of thermal waters in Bulgaria, 42 sources. Doesn't mean that there is a policy about it. It's totally ruined, a lot of abandoned hammams in a lot of abandoned places, or also privatized in a very ugly way. So then the mission that came to those guys, they were a group of architects. So the mission, we thought it's something that it was a big issue for us from a long time, for our team anyway. It was the thermal waters of Sofia, how they can be how this could be community-led innovation, how we can create economy around it, culture around it, that uses the resources of those thermal waters. So these guys, they didn't have any idea about it before that. They got so inspired that they created the social, I wouldn't say, it's a social group that turns now into a movement, but they're already having a working group in the municipality with the vice mayor, or they already managed to organize cultural events in one of the abandoned old baths in order to raise the awareness, to raise money for it. They managed to raise the case also in front of some ministries that need to agree on the building. So you see, you never know where it leads. The only thing that we know is that there is a frame that you can create the ecosystem for social innovation. You can create the ecosystem for people connecting their resources in order to keep those values in mind. Community, participatory, solidarity-based, also being open to the new, not being fixed on a project. And then you can, transfer those values to the ones that can then build a solution. I don't care what the solution is. If in this solution there are those things inside, within.
About this program, how it is being funded?
Our program.
No, this thermal.
There's the demo.
The term, this one, it's for the moment it's not being funded. It's just a civil society voluntary movement.
How you can build a civil society? Because I have something in mind, in my place, and it is something abandoned, and if somebody wants to rebuild it, restore it, and make something about it.
Sure. I mean, then as civil society, you build a coalition.
This belongs to the state. How can a private group go
Private? We are the state. I mean, No, I understand you.
People, yes, I understand, but how a group
Mm-hmm.
of people can demand this from the state?
This is the big question. How we can
Because,
reclaim our
Of
state.
Right? A large house
Mm-hmm.
who has been abandoned, but it belongs to the war, to the Navy.
To
war.
the military.
Yes. How a group of people can profit of it and earn all the people of town get
Mhm.
money and be a touristic place. How
Yes.
can profit of it?
Profit is a word that it depends very much. What do you mean? To benefit, or
Benefit for
the city, the community, how the community can
Yes.
benefit.
And not such a lighthouse be destroyed, because it will get destroyed now.
I mean, so many people around. I'm totally sure you can get a lot of ideas about it from the people here, because culture can raise awareness, like huge awareness through concert, whatever. You can do guerrilla actions. You can do a lot of things. Our goal with this is not to find the funding for them, I don't know, to buy the bat, or it's to make them work together and create this space to think what coalition they need to build in order to get to the goal. But we can push, we can help, but this is already, people need to be empowered. We don't want to feel like the mother organization that, giving the money sometimes, that's why, giving them money is really, can be problematic, really.
The reality, how people can take this from the state?
They just, they researched, they talked to lawyers, they researched all the laws, they wrote a lot of letters, super boring, but this is how you get there. And of course, parallel to this, a huge media campaign. Both. Mm-hmm.
But for example, you said that for this project, you said that there was a kind of festival inside park.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's abandoned, there are some problems like you need to be careful. There's
Yes,
a
yes.
safety.
Yeah, sure. They work with the authorities in order to.
So they rebuild it a little bit in order.
No. I don't think it's. They made a huge step in terms of bringing back. This used to belong to one ministry. They made the case to the Ministry of Healthcare in order to give it to the municipality of Sofia. So what they managed is to push forward this process, and then the municipality, feeling more empowered, started to invest in it, which is quite a lot. Any questions? Yes.
You said the term radicalization could be social innovation.
No.
What do you mean?
I said that people can. I said that you need to define social change for you, because for Trump, it's definitely what he's doing is social change as well. So it's important for all of us to be very clear on the words and the frame of what social change for us is. When I say radicalization, I never said radicalization can be social innovation. I said that people can refer to social change, putting inside whatever they want. This is why you need to be clear on your frame.
Even radicalization. Radicalization means several things. It's not a.
This is not my opinion. I'm saying that the only thing I'm saying is that you can. This is a big threat.
Radicalization is mujahideen.
Not only.
For example.
Not only.
It's
Yes.
included. It's included.
It can be anything. It can be rednecks in the States.
Radicalization can be Baden-Meinhof in Germany.
Did you Can you listen to me for a while? Can you open your ears? Just look
Yes, I'm
at me.
trying to understand what
Yes,
you
yes,
mean
yes.
by radicalization. I'm
Um,
open. My ears are open. What do you mean?
I didn't say it again. I didn't say that it's radicalization is social innovation. I said that it's a very big threat and a very big problem that anyone can put whatever they want into the wording social change. Because social change for us might mean solidarity, community participation, but for anyone, anywhere, it means something different. And this is why you need, if you don't want radicalization, you need to define very well your manifesto and your own understanding of social innovation so that there is no radicalization that can be allowed inside. Do you understand me now? Thank you. But do you understand me?
Well, maybe. I didn't understand that while you were speaking, but it's okay.
Okay.
You use this term, that's why
I just said it as a very, also on my side, radical way to show you that it can be anything. Anyone can put whatever they want inside, unfortunately. That's why we should work on the other side. Tell me.
I have a question about the project that was referring to refugees.
Mm-hmm.
How easy was to approach them? Because I have another project on mine. I was quite involved, let's say. It was really difficult. It was too difficult. In UK, the project was in UK. So I'm asking how easy was to approach those people?
It might be
They're
very.
afraid as well.
It might be very useful for you to look at. There is one Danish method for work, which is called the Dugnat methodology, which is very much based on human-centered design. What you do always, you first go in in a humble way to listen, to understand, to research. So we talked a lot with their translators. We talked a lot with their social workers. And then we started slow interventions. Let's say we worked first with the kids. For 3 days we worked only with the kids, so that we built trust, of course. Not for something else, just we wanted to get to know them. And then first we worked with the kids, then we worked with the mothers. And so that we finished with going out, and for the parents to have trust in us, we needed like a lot of work beforehand. But it was not hard. It's also normal, because people are in trauma, and it's also the normal thing is to spend your time building trust. But as I said, also in the villages, people didn't get the war, but they still don't trust us. So it's always having this time and preparation time always in mind. Never take the people out to, now you do this or that. It's for them, so they need to help you define what you do. Yeah. Okay? Are you hungry enough so we can...
Thank you very much, Yanina.
Thank you.